And we're back with the Costello Coaching Podcast. I'm Tommy Costello with my man Andrew Rohrbach.
Hi everyone. My name's Andrew Rohrbach.
Yep, back at it. Today I came prepared for you, okay? If this is your first time listening to Andrew and I, Andrew is a mental performance coach, specializes in sports, but works as a high-level CEO mindset coach.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
I work in corporate America.
Yeah, you're a corporate guy.
Like corporate psych. Yeah,
Corporate psychology.
corporate psychology. Yeah,
So helping really smart people perform mentally, emotionally stronger.
yeah. Like the best way I try to describe it is like, what is mental performance in corporate? Is like most people in corporate America, in my opinion, like it's I don't know. Sometimes they don't really enjoy their job. So I like to present mental performance as like, I can equip you with skills that might help you, one, perform better. When we perform better, we normally like the thing that we're doing. But when we like the thing that we're doing, you spend 70% of your life at work, you know? So I try to help from a mental, emotional perspective, from corporate to professional athletes, anyone in the sporting, any performer, one, perform better, but also enjoy what they're doing a little bit more.
Yeah. And with your background, played professional baseball with the Rockies, so you have an easy connector between athletes and what they're going through, and you had your own challenges. So today I'm going to ask you about some research that I was looking at in regards to mental emotional stress, and really what it's tied to is the specialization of these youth athletes when they're focused on one sport. We see a lot of burnout. So the research that I'm going to be referring back to says that 25 to 35% of youth athletes, so going up to 18, experience not only burnout, but stress and anxiety. So they're experiencing high levels of anxiety. And what the research points to is that the specialization of one sport can really be the driver on that.
Oh, that's interesting. The just doing one sport causes a lot of the burnout.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of factors in it, but one is injury. So when kids experience injury, and really what it talks about is the identity that someone goes through, and we've talked about that on episodes before, what it's like to have athlete identity. I know you did your research on that for your thesis in school. So all about athlete identity. So some of that is there. But what's really interesting and what kind of sparked my interest in this is every week when I send out these podcasts via email, I tell my subscribers to send me an email back if you'd like to hear anything that would help you if Andrew and I discuss these things. And I actually got quite a few replies this past week, because I think it's the start of baseball season, about athletes that play multiple sports and how they're navigating trying to transition back into baseball. So what the email specifically asked from the one parent was, all the coaches say they support athletes playing multiple sports, but when they come back to the sport, they're either benched or put last in line, bottom of the depth chart, because they weren't there all fall. They weren't practicing with the team, but they were playing for the same school, playing football or playing basketball. And it's really interesting because then it puts the pressure on these kids to play one sport, which isn't good for their body, and then what this research is showing too, which isn't good for their mental health either. So there's a lot to unpack here in a short time, but I think we can give some good answers on, number one, how to fight against burnout. And then maybe number two is how to navigate the conversations and set boundaries on the fact that my son or I am going to be playing two sports. This is what we're doing. Let's get on the same page about how we navigate it.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And you talked a lot about like athlete identity too. I know we're going to hit on burnout more importantly, but athlete identity is something I really struggled with, right? It's really just defined as how much your personal identity, like your self-identity, is equated with the job and description that you're doing in your life. So whether it's a job or it's the sport that you play. So how much I identify with being a professional baseball player. And I don't know if you want to like put a number on it, but when I was playing, I think I would have not selfishly, but I think I would have answered the question saying, I probably identify with being a professional baseball player 95% of my entire identity. And when you do that, you're leaving not as much room and growth for other areas of who you are as a person to kind of really shine here. And so when you are just doing one sport, you are that one sport person. The best way, we've had a podcast before we talked about this. If you're a parent or if you're a kid, what other things are you curious about? Like for me, I was into some sort of arts, but I didn't really put any effort into doing so. And I was also interested in psychology. But when the world tells you no, don't put focus on those, put focus on sport, yet like you're really denying your opportunity to grow in other areas. And actually the research is really clear that when you have other areas of your identity, you perform a lot better. It's this idea of plan A, or no plan B because I have the plan A. It's actually the opposite. You should have not necessarily other plans, but other areas of your life that you're curious about, that you're putting effort and energy into, because then you're not living and dying based off your performance, because you have other areas that like fulfill you. And that allows you an opportunity to feel less stress and more relief to perform the way you need to perform in baseball or whatever your sport is.
Yeah, and I think on personal experience, like I remember because I played both baseball and football, and I played two pretty high leverage positions, being pitching and two-way in baseball and playing quarterback in football. Like those at a very competitive high school that was competing, top 10 programs in both baseball and football. So the pressure was always there to just be the football guy or to just be the baseball guy. And I always felt better when I transitioned into both sports. Like it was refreshing for me to go out with the football guys. Different personalities, different structure, different type of practice. All of it was different. And then when I'd go back to baseball, it would feel fresh too. Same sort of thing, different structure, different personalities, different guys. But in my graduating class, I think I was the only one who played both as a senior, which is crazy. And that was 10 years ago. And now it's even more so specialized. And kids as freshmen in high school don't even want to play on the freshman football team because they don't want to miss freshman baseball. And I think that's such a sin to our youth, because the one of the best in the science of training is cross-sport specificity. And that's where you learn new movements, you learn new skills, but most importantly, you learn how to interact with different people, how to interact with different coaches, how to win a different game. You learn competitive mindsets. So I always encourage guys to play multiple sports. I always encourage that. But the reality is, especially in the area we live in, people, the coaches and the programs and the kids, and more importantly, the parents want to see their kids succeed in the one area, and it's so competitive that it's so hard to even succeed in the one area, that how could you even succeed in the two areas? And so I think the best thing that we could offer them is either perspective on what is important, or two, approach. And I think perspective is, it's all going to work out. Like just continue to encourage your kid. If they're going to be a pro and they're destined to be a pro, it's going to happen. I think that's the reality too. And give it more time than you think would be the first perspective. Give it more time than you think. And if you're going to be a pro, you're going to be a pro. So don't try to force the issue there. And then boundaries would be setting boundaries with the coaching staff or the athletic programs and say, hey, look, I'm not going to be, for lack of better terms, discriminated against for playing multiple sports. You're not going to put me at the bottom of the lineup. Like, you're going to give me a fair and equal chance when I come out and compete. And if my skills aren't there, then I need to work harder. If my game isn't where it needs to be, then I need to develop my game. But you can't put me on the bench because I played football in the fall or I played basketball, right? So I think that's kind of a mouthful, but basically that would eliminate burnout in a way, because it's always fresh, transitioning season to season. And really, like, when it comes down to the science of training, it's best for the body as well. So I think but the hard part is navigating how to actually do it.
Yeah. I think you also hit on a couple points there. Is one, there were so many things that I did outside of baseball that made me a better baseball player, right? Like Tommy, you know this better than anybody. I'm like one of the best dancers in America.
Yeah, elite level dancer.
I'm not like my hips.
Usher, Chris Brown level.
Yeah, like if you see anyone who can dance, you just assume that I can do it the same, if not better.
You should see this guy at weddings.
I'm a great wedding dancer. That's probably it, right? But I did take a couple dancing classes, and it taught me rhythm. And it's funny because when I played at Long Beach State, the pitching coach used to come up to me and would talk about like rhythm and flow within pitching. And he would always use the example, it's like you're dancing. Like you got the upper body going. I could picture him doing this. This is hilarious. But he's got the upper body going, and then like he would bring in his lower half and like how they work together. And I was just sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, sure, you could teach this to anyone who just plays baseball. But it was nice to have another aspect of, yeah, that's how I was taught in the couple dancing classes I took. And also, like, I took a lot of breathing classes and yoga classes with my ex-girlfriend. It's like, okay, great, that works in baseball too. So when you say yes to other things outside of baseball, you're also filling the cup of baseball. And a lot of people don't think that. They think I just have to fill the cup in baseball and I have to use all the skills there. It's like when you pull from other areas, it actually fills the cup that you're unintentionally filling up. And that also goes to the burnout aspect. You talk about boundaries. Burnout, in my opinion, stems from, one, you don't have control over your schedule. So someone's telling you to do something over and over again. It's like, great. Where's the nuance of like having a little bit more fun here? And two is like finding different areas to find creativity when you're so task oriented. So when you're told to, my schedule is school from here to here, then baseball practice here to here, and then training here to here. And then I do that Monday through Friday. Can you fit in other areas that allow you an opportunity to like have some fun or try something different? And that's a lot what leads to burnout is boundaries and little of control over your schedule or of your life. And so if you can give that back to the player, it helps a lot.
That's interesting. So do you see that in corporate America too, when they don't have control over their schedule?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, corporate America, in my opinion, and I've been in it for 6 months now, is say yes to all the meetings, say yes to all the projects, and don't say yes to deep focus. And deep focus stems from like unintentional not being in meetings, not saying yes to everything, and sitting and kind of like working through something, which goes more to the creativity aspect, right? Like when you have a couple hours to kind of work through something rather than having to hop into meetings and be here and be there, it's like you don't have as much control over your schedule, and the work that you're actually trying to accomplish is going to be lackluster because you are just kind of like how a kid in high school is nowadays, which is what's leading to stress and anxiety, in my opinion, is they're, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids are operating like they've worked a job, right? It's like there's not a lot of option for fun outside of it, or free play, or, hey, I don't know, whatever it is for them, right? Something outside of the structure. Because we always think about like, I need more structure, more routines. But most often the time is like, it's fine to have the structure and routines, but are you putting in the routine free play and moments away from your phone and moments away from structure? That actually aids into recovery, which is a huge part of burnout. You don't have any recovery because you're saying yes to everything all the time. Recovery is a huge portion of not just staying consistent with the work, but like just allowing you an opportunity to be a human.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think ironically, like if you transition from sport to sport, it gives you a chance to recover. Yes. It gives you a chance to recover from the dynamics that are present at the baseball field, and it gives you a chance to recover from the dynamics that are on the other field or the court that you're playing on. And as you're talking about those things, I'm just thinking about, kids getting time back to themselves. Like, I don't think when they get the freedom to do what they want, a lot of them kind of hop into like mindless activities, like video games or Snapchatting their friends or whatever they do. And I would really encourage them when they have time, because they do have more time than they think, when they do have some time, that they go do something that is a deeper focus work, right? Because just for example, like if you're at baseball all the time and that's all you do, it's really hard to be deeply focused all the time there. But if you're only there 6 months versus 12 months, when you're there, you're completely locked in and you're completely present, and then you shift into the next one. And I think that's actually really, really healthy. My last piece of advice for someone playing multiple sports is be undeniably great at what you do. Like, just be undeniably great. Like, a lot of guys will kind of want to make the excuse that, oh, they're not playing me because of this and that. And it's like, I'm not saying everyone can be, because he was probably the greatest athlete to live, but Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, like these guys were so great that nobody could deny them. If they wanted to roll out week 3, they could roll out week 3 and do it. And you can only do that through hard work, effort, and obviously you got to have some skill. But if you are attempting to play multiple sports in this area specifically, and you probably have enough skill, but you better just work so freaking hard at it so that when you show up on the field, the coach is like, I got to play this guy. I got to play this guy. If it's on whatever sport you're playing, be so great at it that it's just undeniable that you can go start. And that was my mentality when I played both sports, and I was always in competition. Like, I was always competing in high school, but I was just like, I'm going to work so hard at this that when I show up, they got to play me. Like, there's no questions.
I'm just curious, where'd you get that frame of mindset from?
I don't know. I think I always played multiple sports, and my dad would always coach me towards like preparation, like prepare. And when you're going into something, like, you must be prepared for it. And so even on Sundays during baseball season, I would go see the football quarterback coach, and I'd go out to Ventura and work with, his name is Bob Gagliano. He was Joe Montana's backup, and he was like one of the greatest influences for me, but I was always touching the football during the baseball season, kind of focused on that. And then during the football season, I was actually all football, but I learned that I needed to use December and January to prepare for baseball season. So it wasn't like there was necessarily time off and just relaxing and being a kid and not really doing anything. I was always like in preparation mode for the next sport in those transition periods, so that when I would go out there, I'd be better than them.
Because I kind of hear what you're saying is when you were doing other things out of the original sport, you're actually training your ability to focus in different environments.
Exactly. Like, you're training your mind. So when you learn a playbook or something and you learn how to go connect with a receiver, like, you are becoming so much more athletic, and your mind is being developed that when you step up onto the mound, you know your strategic brain and the way that you go out and compete has been developed and sharpened and hardened. And the specific details, whether it's a cover 3 defense or a 2-strike count, those are just small details, but the brain has been trained on how to execute in those moments, and the details of the moment are interchangeable. And that's why sports are the greatest preparation for life. And I think for me personally, like, I never want to be identified as one thing. Like, going back to identity, I never want to be identified as one thing. Oh, Tommy is the trainer, or Tommy is the pitching guy, or Tommy is this. I never even know how to explain to people what I do, like, for a living, because I'm like, I do so many different things, and I like that. I think in our culture, in America specifically, like, we're tied to, you do this, that's what you do. You're the insurance guy, or you're the finance guy, or you're the real estate guy. And we're so much more dynamic than that. Like, God's blessed us with so many different skills and assets to impact the world. Why would we, just specialize in one? And I get it. Like, it's such a competitive world that it takes so much time to be great at one thing, but allow yourself to be dynamic in multiple arenas, because that could be your greatest asset, is that you're flexible and you're malleable in different environments, and you're skilled in multiple arenas. And if you just tie your identity down to one thing, if that one thing doesn't work out, what are you going to do? And we see that, and we've talked about that before with baseball players, is like career ends at 25. What a blessed career, right? Like you got to play all the way to 25, or career ends at 18, career ends at 21. There's a shell shock experience that we all go through when your identity is, I am this. There's a 18-month, 2 year, sometimes people never break out of it. We've all talked to the 50-year-old that still talks about his baseball career all the time. It's like, man, that guy never left that identity. What a sad life, to me. Like there's so much more to this life than just being one thing,
Yeah, I know. As you're talking, it's reminding me of how much I identified with the baseball player out of fear of losing that identity.
Which is ironic because like everyone knows the thing that is going to end, right? Like the baseball career is going to end, right? No one has played till they were 100 years old, right? That's always going to end. But I think the conversations around that is encouraging young athletes, especially, going back to the research that I looked at with how many are experiencing anxiety, depression, 35%. Is what the research says. 35% of young athletes experiencing anxiety and depression. Well, encourage them that they are more than just their sport. They are more than that. You can go play multiple sports, could be one avenue. You can go, sing, dance, whatever it is, whatever you cook, whatever you like whatever intrigues you, and you go engage in those things as well. But when you do those things with a commitment and an effort. Don't just do those things mindlessly. And don't cop out to the things like, video games or Snapchat in your free time, because you're so much more than that as well. Go engage in things that are going to challenge you, that intrigue you. That would be my advice to those people. And if it's multiple sports, it's multiple sports. If it's, something outside of sport, it's something outside of it. But go engage in what intrigues you.
Yeah, I like the thing that you talked about with commitment to the other thing. I think the way I like to think about stuff like this is whether it's being in action, being in, like, for example, if I'm training, like being committed to being in training, but I also need to be committed to recovery in the way that I need to be committed to recovery. And most often we just don't turn our brain off, right? Like you said, Snapchat, phones, all these mindless things, that also leads to burnout. You're not actually recovering in the way that you need to. And so deciding if you need a full day to be creative and fun and not have a schedule, commit to it. Comparatively to finding things that just kind of mind numb you, those don't recover and you in the way that you need to be recovered, and then you go back into work or baseball or whatever sport it is.
Yeah, you never got a chance to reset.
You're exhausted still, and you go, why am I not recovering the way I need to? Well, one, you're not committing to recovery, and two, sometimes people don't need recovery. Sometimes they need a different avenue, a different category to jump into. For example, like for me, baseball was task, was objective. It was like get the work done. But I also would jump out of that and go do other things that were a little bit more creative. It was dancing or, making videos or something along those lines. It was more creative, and I was trying to commit to that so that when I went back to baseball, I wasn't tired. I just flexed a different muscle.
Would you ever tell people that you like those things when you were playing baseball? Because I feel like people who have their identity, like you said, 95% was baseball player, you'd probably never in conversation express those other things that you liked.
My situation was a little bit different because the things that I was doing outside of baseball were still like popular, right? Like my past is also, I was one of those Abercrombie and Fitch models that would travel the world. Shirtless greeting is what it was called. And then I got into modeling. So it was somewhat cool to say, yeah, I'm a pro baseball player and I also do modeling stuff. So it was easier for me to be jumping into that because
very talented human being.
It's not talented. That's just what it is. I don't know what it is, but it was easy. I was validated for those things. But there were other areas of my life that I would make videos and I would join dance classes, and I also joined acting classes. And those actually help me in a lot of areas in baseball. Now, to your question, would I talk about them? I think the more time I spent around them and I found the value in doing them, I was more comfortable to do so. But that's like part of the problem is people just don't even take that first step into those other things. So they can't find the value in them. But if you're curious about something, it's not necessarily about a parent going, hey, you should try other things and your identity is not baseball. It's great. It's like, great. My dad used to say that and my mom used to say that to me all the time. But that doesn't help me. It just proves that I'm already like feeling, oh, that I am only a baseball player. So the question I would pose to the individual that's struggling with it is, what else are you curious about? And how can you take that first step? Because people saying that to you doesn't really do anything. You have to be the person that goes like, no, I'm actually curious about finance. I'm curious about how businesses are operated. I'm curious about how like all these people who are famous making these videos, like how they like run and operate this different software. And that's a lot of the stuff that kids are into nowadays. So how can you get curious about that? And what does that bring you for baseball? Or just make you a more complete person that, to your point, everyone has multiple things they're going to do in their lives. You're not just one specific thing. So just like having the trust that you can kind of jump into that and take one small step into it sometimes helps people.
Yeah, and more importantly, like parents like allowing that and encouraging that. I think like a lot of coaches and parents will like discourage that because no, stay focused. Like you got enough to do, figure out this. All right, you got to get your grades. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's like, all right, I get it. Like most people who are, going after these big goals, like understand that. But the benefit that someone could see if they did engage in things that they're curious about, and then they re-entered those arenas that maybe might be higher on their priority list, how much more energy that they could have, going into it. And then the last thing is how tired people get. Like I noticed that when people have a lot of energy all the time, they're pretty excited about what they're doing and they're not burnout. And someone that is tired all the time with what they're doing is a little burnt out and overworked. And so even if, like, for example, like to hammer home this point, if someone got 8 hours of sleep, they both got 8 hours of sleep, they both got an hour workout in, they both ate healthy, one went to a job or into a sport that they were burnt out with, the other went to a job or a sport that they were excited about, they both had the same exact schedule, same workloads, but the person who's burnt out is way more exhausted all the time. And in psychology, they would refer to that as like an emotional burden that they're carrying, which is dragging out their energy. For that person, what kind of like short piece of advice would you give them to help them with their burnout? Because I think no one enters their job or no one enters their sport originally disliking it. There might be a small detail that's causing them to feel burnt out in it, but they probably entered it because they did like it at some point. So how do you help someone really shift the script on the burnout and get their energy back?
Well, you were talking a little bit about like personal well-being, which is like the 8 hours of sleep. Like that's always a good checklist. Is like, are you actually taking care of your body's wants and needs to survive? So I'd always probably start with that because most often people who are struggling with burnout are having a hard time like turning their brain off from work or whatever it is. And so like they're not actually stepping into another area of their life, whether it's being a father or a brother or whatever it is. I guess like the scenarios, what were the two scenarios? Like one person.
The scenarios are both people have the same exact schedule. Mm-hmm. Both are doing the same exact workload. One loves what they're doing. One is burnt out with what they're doing. The one who loves what they're doing seems to always have energy for it. The one who's burnt out seems to never have energy for anything.
Well, do they love it?
No, they both did love it because they both entered into it loving it, but one is experiencing burnout, one is not.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question, Tommy, because it's so subjective, right? Like I would just kind of like try to explore the different avenues. So like personal well-being, how they're showing up at work. What is it about the job that you're struggling with? Or what is it about the choices that you're making that are causing you to feel this way? Well, I don't have like a good relationship with my manager, or I'm not entirely sure like where I fit in on this team. I don't know where, like where I'm having a hard time shutting off work when I leave. There's a lot of different areas. And so from that point, be able to help them through those things, because obviously like perception is your reality, and helping them shape their perception of what they're currently going through, and small little action steps to kind of help them move themselves in the right direction.
Sweet. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. There's so many actionable things for kids, parents, or working professionals to apply. These topics are much more applicable than just sport, obviously, but the same problems that show up in work environments show up in sport environments. It's the same thing. Humans going through challenges, mentally, emotionally, trying to perform. And these are some approaches that people can take in order to move the needle in a positive direction where they want their, work career or life to kind of end up for themselves. So it's great.
Sweet.